Vermont last year. The weight of it settled in my chest, but I didn't stop. I started with her email. Nothing dramatic at first, the usual clutter, until I found the thread between her and Kyle. The subject line looked harmless, reconference after party, but the chain went back for weeks. I scrolled through it like watching a bad film play out. Messages from her, from him. Can't wait for tonight. We'll have more fun than last time. Promise. Winking face. Just don't let Mason find out. He's so clueless. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Just a few more weeks and we'll be good. My stomach twisted. A few more weeks. This had been going on far longer than I'd realized, months. They'd been laughing about me and the life I thought we were building. She hadn't even bothered to clear her browser history. Apparently, it didn't matter to her. I opened the chat logs next. Messages stretching back to the start of the year. They'd been plotting this slowly, like two people playing a game with no stakes. Every note about their plan, every lie she'd fed me was there. Then I found the last message I'd missed the first time. Notes on the table. Freedom begins. See you in an hour. I sat with that line for a long time. She couldn't even finish with something human, just a cold, clipped message to cover her tracks and make sure things went according to plan. I checked the downloads folder and found a travel directory. Inside was a hotel receipt, the same place she and Kyle had used the week before she left. Room for two, late checkout. I took a screenshot, copied everything to an external drive, grabbed more screenshots of the messages, the receipt, and every digital breadcrumb that sketched out the story. I didn't flinch. This was my evidence, and I wasn't going to waste it. When it was over, there was no triumphant rush. Instead, I felt like I'd swung a door open that couldn't be closed. It hurt to see her for what she really was, but it also made sense. She wasn't someone who needed space. She'd already chosen. I shut the computer down, grabbed my phone, and forwarded every screenshot, every message, every hotel detail straight to Walter. Then I sat in the silence. No more questions. No more wondering. I was going to finish this. I refused to be the bad guy in her story. Once Walter confirmed everything was in order, I called the landlord, explained the situation, sent him a copy of the note she'd left, and told him she'd gone permanently. He didn't hesitate. The lease was rewritten only in my name. No fight, no drama. It was done. I didn't celebrate. I just completed a necessary, quiet task. The house was mine. A week later, my phone rang while I was washing dishes. Her name flashed on the screen. I answered on the third ring out of procedure, not curiosity. What the hell, Mason? Why aren't you letting me back in? She demanded, frantic. You left, I said slowly, like I was explaining the simplest thing. You vacated. The lease is in my name now. You don't have a key. She tried to force reality into mine. I'm coming back to the house and you can't stop me. I stayed steady. You gave up access when you left. I followed my lawyer's advice. The locks are changed. The house is mine. After a long pause, her voice cracked. What am I supposed to do now? You think I'm just going to disappear? I didn't soften. Is Kyle's place working out? You two aren't exactly living in luxury. She didn't answer at first. I could almost hear her trying to hide facts. Finally she spat. You don't know anything about it. I didn't need to. You're not my problem anymore. You chose to leave. You deal with the consequences. Her whisper came next. I didn't think you'd actually do this. I let the quiet hang. You wanted freedom, Megan. Now you've got it. Don't make me your fallback plan. I hung up. It wasn't satisfaction so much as a weight lifting. Everything was done. I hadn't done anything to her. I'd simply followed the process. She couldn't pin the wreckage on me. She had the freedom she'd asked for. I just made sure it came with a reality check. I kept quiet. I wasn't going to badmouth her or explain myself to anyone who didn't ask. But secrets don't stay buried. Whispers spread. Friends checking in about her, then people picking sides. Some who'd always seen us as a couple drifted away. Others offered perfunctory condolences. Kyle's name began floating around too. Turns out he wasn't the single savior image he'd sold. He was married. His own divorce had been public and ugly. His wife had spilled everything on social media. HR got involved at his job and his reputation cratered. Yet he'd been playing the good guy while his professional life started to unravel. Promotions vanished, assignments shrank, and his fake charm stopped working. One afternoon, Megan's old friend Emma called. She'd always been quiet in the group, but this time she had to speak. You're hearing about her, right? She asked, hesitant. I didn't confirm. She's posting happy pictures, but people are talking. It doesn't look good. Let them talk, I said, controlled and sharp. I'm done with the rumors. I don't owe anyone an explanation. Emma pressed on. It's a disaster. They're barely holding it together. I replied. I'm not part of the lie anymore. If they want to keep pretending, that's on them. I hung up. The online narrative caught up quickly. Staged smiles, filtered images, hollow captions about fresh starts. The more they tried to sell happiness, the more the cracks showed. I didn't have to speak. They were undoing themselves. I was asleep when a voicemail came in past midnight. Megan talked about a Grand Canyon trip we'd taken years earlier. Do you remember the sunset? Her voice trembled. The colors were so beautiful. We were supposed to go back. Maybe we still could. She paused like she expected an answer. Then, almost disconnected from the recollection, she said, Anyway, I need to know if I can buy out my share of the deposit. $28.50, Mason. I'll get it to you as soon as I can. I deleted the rest and moved on. The next morning an email from her lawyer arrived. It was polite but carried the same new tone of desperation. She was asking about buying out her share of the deposit. I forwarded it to Walter and didn't respond. His reply came within an hour, professional, tight, with an attached password-protected file labeled Kyle. Inside were messages between Megan and Kyle that were damning. One read, We can get the deposit from him. It's just a matter of timing. Kyle's reply, I'll handle it. Don't make it seem like we're in a rush. Let him think we're trying to settle on good terms. They'd planned to manipulate me from the start, to act like they were negotiating while buying time to get what they wanted. I felt no triumph, only a flat sense of finality. I forwarded everything to Megan's lawyer with one line. I'm not entertaining this request. Any further communication must go through my attorney. The messages stopped. Her lawyer didn't reply. The silence that followed signaled the fallout. They'd pushed too far. She wouldn't get the money or the control. The game was over. 6 months later, it was wrapped up. Quiet, professional, ruthless. Walter did the work and I let him. I didn't speak to Megan directly during that time except through lawyers. Not once outside the formal process. Each legal milestone took a little more of the person I used to be, but I kept going. Megan's lawyer fought, but Walter had everything. Messages, receipts, bank records, every breadcrumb. He used her own words to dismantle her claims of fairness. The judge ruled in my favor on asset division. She walked away with almost nothing, a few personal items and a sliver of savings, but not what she thought she deserved. The lease and purchase option had already been transferred into my name months earlier. All that remained was my signature. The win felt anticlimactic. No celebration, just a clean resolution. A month ago I sat at the closing table with a pen and signed away the last tie to what we'd built. The house was mine in every legal sense. I didn't care how Megan or Kyle were doing. Friends said they'd ended up in a cramped apartment trying to salvage whatever they could. I didn't send a card. I didn't reach out. I wasn't part of their mess any longer. Rumors kept coming. Megan was feeling the pressure, the reality of what she'd lost. Whispers reached me. She was resentful, trying to understand how it all unraveled so fast. Not my problem. She chose her path, chose Kyle, chose the lies, and left me with paperwork to sign. I signed it. I was sprawled on my new couch with the TV on low when an email arrived. Your Spotify password was changed. I smirked. She was still on the family plan, one tiny thread I hadn't bothered to cut. I opened the app, kicked her off, reset the password, and shut off family sharing. Took less than a minute. Felt like flipping a deadbolt I hadn't known was still unlocked. That was the last connection. She was out of my finances, my house, and my playlists. Whatever music she wanted now, she'd pay for herself. The place stopped feeling like hers. I painted the kitchen, covered that awful sage green she insisted on, installed open shelves, swapped cabinet hardware, tore down the little chalkboard wall she used to scribble on like we were some cute Pinterest couple. I cleared the closet, sold her side table, swapped the headboard. Even the bed felt different. Not a single photo of her remained. No trace of her personality tucked away in a drawer. The house wasn't a set anymore. It felt mine. I didn't hate her. I didn't replay the lies. I didn't care what stories she told her friends or what excuses she muttered at night. I felt little beyond relief. She'll probably spend years blaming me, saying I changed, that I was cold, unforgiving. Maybe I was. But I didn't ruin anything. I just stepped out of the way and let it fall apart on its own. I stepped into the bedroom and immediately knocked out the man who'd been sleeping with my cheating wife. I bound them both, pulled a syringe from my bag and said, I'm going to inject you with a powerful poison. You'll have 30 minutes to tell me your story in detail. If you do, maybe I'll give you the antidote. Their faces drained of color as I flipped on the camera. People say you never forget the moment your world collapses. The memory carves itself into you. The sounds, the smells, the way the air sits on your skin. For me, it was the scent of lavender candles and a faint jazz tune floating down the hall. Everything looked normal on the surface, but deep inside I already felt the wrongness. I'd just come off an 18-hour shift at the hospital. As an ER doctor, my life revolved around blood, adrenaline, and fatigue. Saving people, fixing the shattered, then coming home late to a wife who always said she understood. We'd been married for 7 years. And until recently I believed we were happy. Sure, things had been tense lately. Less talking, more excuses, her phone face down on the counter. I blamed my schedule, the job, the tiredness. I thought we were weathering a rough patch. Turns out I was the only one fighting for it. I climbed the stairs, each step heavy, my body sore from the shift, and then I heard it. A breath, a soft laugh. Her laugh, but not the version for me. Playful, different. Then a man's low murmur. I froze. My mind refused the truth. It had to be the TV, a call with a friend. Anything but what I suspected. Still, something in me already knew. I inhaled slowly, pulse thudding, and pushed the door open. Bare skin, twisted sheets, tangled limbs. Her eyes were the second thing I saw, wide, frozen in panic. She gasped and scrambled to cover herself. The man beside her, a stranger in my bed, flinched with his face half buried in the pillows. I just stood there, numb. Time stretched and every detail burned in. The candle she'd lit, wine glasses on my nightstand. The sheets I'd bought wrapped around another man. I should have shouted. I should have raged. Instead, I stared as my life rearranged into something I barely recognized. Then the stranger made a mistake. He moved, sat up, blinked in confusion. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I lunged before thinking. My fist found his jaw with a sickening crack, bone on bone. He had no time to reply before I grabbed his throat and slammed him into the headboard. His head snapped back and the bed heaved. My wife screamed, "John, stop." I didn't. The man in front of me wasn't an accident. He was her choice. Both of them would face the consequences. My thoughts weren't clear, or maybe they were the clearest they'd ever been. My eyes flicked to my work bag by the door. Inside I had everything I needed, not to save lives this time. I let the man slump back, groaning, and walked slowly to the bag. I unzipped it and produced a syringe. The moment she saw it, her face drained. "John, what are you doing?" she whispered. I held up the needle, voice steady. "This," I said, rolling it between my fingers, "is a powerful neurotoxin." Her lover's eyes widened with pure terror. I sat on the bed's edge and watched them writhe. "Here's how it works," I said, deliberate. "Once injected, you have about 30 minutes before full paralysis sets in. Then your organs shut down, one after another." She began to shake. The man let out a strangled sound. I smiled, reached back into my bag, and brought out a small vial of clear liquid. "There's an antidote," I told them, placing it on the nightstand between the wine glasses. Their eyes locked onto it. "Now," I said, turning my phone on and hitting record. "You're going to tell me the truth. Everything." The room tightened, heat prickling the air. Lisa sat frozen, clutching the sheets like they might save her. Matt leaned against the headboard, hand over his bleeding nose, pain contorting his face. I perched on the bed's edge, syringe in hand, my pulse loud in my ears. The rage was still there, a burning, consuming thing, but alongside it a new realization. How far would I go? Years of saving lives had given me knowledge and tools. For the first time I had absolute control over life and death, and the thought terrified me. It also stirred something darker. I didn't hate that control. "Start talking," I said. Silence. Lisa's lip trembled, but she wouldn't speak. Matt's eyes pinged between me and the syringe, panic making his breath shallow. I sighed and tilted the needle so a tiny drop fell onto the sheets, which made him choke out a noise. Okay, please just let me explain," he begged. I turned to Lisa. She was still mute, pale, knuckles white from gripping fabric. "Lisa," I said, calm. "Do you want your boyfriend to take all the blame? Or are you going to tell me the truth?" She swallowed hard. "John, Her breath hitched. "I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Really? Because you sure as hell didn't look worried about that a few minutes ago." Tears welled, but I felt nothing. "How long?" I asked. She closed her eyes, throat bobbing as she found the word she'd been hiding. 6 months, she whispered. My jaw tightened. I'd suspected something was wrong, but hearing it aloud opened a new kind of pain. I turned to Matt. "And you?" I demanded. He hesitated, so I pressed the syringe lightly to his bare skin. Not enough to inject, just enough to make him flinch. 6 months, I swear, he blurted. Why? I growled. He drew a shaky breath. John, you were never home, he said. She felt alone. Those words hit harder than I expected. I had braced for excuses, for blame. But not that. My fists clenched. So your solution was to sleep with one of my coworkers? I snapped. Lisa flinched. I was lonely, John, she said, voice breaking. I tried to tell you. I tried to talk. I felt like I didn't matter. I stared at her, anger raging, but now something else surfaced. A flicker of doubt in her eyes, as if even she didn't fully grasp why she'd done it. Like she'd wrapped herself in reasons that were excuses. I turned back to Matt. And you? I asked. Was she just convenient? His lips trembled. I don't know, man. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I swear. I exhaled slowly, the syringe heavy in my hand. For a moment I